I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation, the sexual abuse and murder of a 13-year-old girl named Madeline Soto, who unfortunately had no one in her life who protected her from a predator. Here's the story. 13-year-old Madeline Soto was murdered in February of 2024 in Kissimmee, Florida. She was reported missing after failing to show up at school, sparking a frantic search. 5 days later, her body was found in a remote area of Osceola County. The medical examiner determined she had been strangled. Authorities arrested Stephan Stearns, the boyfriend of Madeline's mother, Jennifer Soto. He was charged with first-degree murder, capital sexual battery, and possession of child sexual abuse material. Investigators revealed that Stearns had been allegedly abusing Madeline for years. Stearns is currently awaiting 2 trials, the first for the alleged sexual abuse of Madeline and a second trial for her murder, where he is facing the death penalty. Madeline's mom, who allowed her daughter to sleep alone with Stearns in his bedroom, has not been charged with anything and is expected to be a crucial witness for prosecutors in both trials. So Stephan Stearns, as I said, is battling 2 battles. He has 2 cases that are pending. One where Madeline Soto is the victim of a murder and he's facing a potential death sentence. And then the second, super serious as well, for the sex abuse and the recording of images of Madeline Soto over the course of years. So when Madeline is missing and Stephan Stearns is being questioned, there's a moment in that interrogation, that interview, where Stephan Stearns shuts everything down. And it's at the moment where investigators start talking about the images on Stephan Stearns' phone. Now remember, he had done what he called an accidental factory reset on his phone. But apparently, investigators were able to get into it nonetheless. Let's take a look at that moment.
From what I understand, that you gave the deputies consent to look through your phone. You did? Okay. And you voluntarily gave it to them so they could bring it here to do the extraction and stuff like that. Okay. What do you think was on the phone?
Text messages. Emails, phone stuff.
Pictures?
Oh, yeah.
What kind of pictures were on there?
Training card pictures, lightsaber pictures, Disney pictures.
Here's where I'm going to be brutally honest with you. There's your phone. And I'm pretty sure you know what some of those pictures are about. You're a very intelligent person. And I don't want you to discredit yourself by saying you don't know about all the pictures that are on your phone. You understand what I'm saying?
Should I be talking with a lawyer right now?
That was it. As soon as he says the word lawyer, it's over. But this is a huge moment in the investigation. It's really the game-changing moment in the investigation, because once you uncover the phone, it's going to lead to a lot of different things, a lot of different parts of the 2 different cases against Stephan Stearns. And that brings us to the first question in our investigation. What was on Stephan Stearns' phone? What did they uncover? What was revealed? Joining me to help answer this question, he's followed the case from the beginning. Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas is with us, and creator and host of Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel. She's been all over this case, breaking news all the time. Gisela K is with us as well. Thank you both. Cody, I want to begin with you. Give us some sense first of what police and investigators said that they uncovered here on this phone.
Well, Vinnie, what we do know regarding this sex crimes case is that Stephan Stearns faces 60 charges in this case. And again, this case is aside from the murder case that he faces in Madeline Soto's death. But Vinnie, of those 60 charges, 40 of them are labeled unlawful possession of materials depicting sexual performance by a child, 10 or more images. And I don't know if you did the quick math there, Vinnie, that's a lot of images, hundreds if not thousands. And of course we know without the cell phone evidence, there is no case here because that's where all the evidence is coming from, is his phone. Now, according to the Kissimmee Police Department, they released an unredacted affidavit that kind of gives a generality of what was found. And I want to warn viewers, those who are watching and listening at home, that the contents of this affidavit are pretty graphic. But it reads, quote, upon reviewing the contents of Stephan's phone, several images and videos were located which depicted the missing juvenile with her breasts, vagina, and anal opening as the focal point of the pictures/videos. There were also pictures and videos depicting the missing juvenile's vagina and mouth being penetrated by a penis. As such, the files depict the sexual performance of a child. Your affiant has probable cause to believe Stephan was in possession of material depicting the sexual performance of a child. So again, Vinnie, hundreds upon hundreds of files and videos that police say they received from that phone, and it's just utterly disgusting and egregious just reading and seeing that.
So what's different in a case like this, the images themselves cannot be distributed. They can't be made public. That would be a violation of the law. So the best that can be done for the public to really understand is descriptions. Do they give any more specifics? And the reason I'm asking is we're never going to see these images, but I think it's important to understand what is actually depicted here.
Absolutely, Vinnie. So I just read from that unredacted affidavit. Now, this is the case supplemental report also provided by police. And again, want to warn viewers that it gets way into more graphic detail in these descriptions of the images and video files. So we'll start with the first one here. It says, description, video file depicting a prepubescent female resembling redacted, who we can rightfully assume is Madeline, that's her name because she was a minor, who would have been redacted months old. Madeline is laying next to Stephan in a bed watching cartoons on the television. Stephan is asking Madeline to put his penis in her mouth for 3 seconds as he counts. Stephan states Madeline would not be able to play with the phone unless she did it. Moving along here, Vinnie, the second one says, description, image file depicting redacted, approximately redacted years old. Stephan is inserting his finger into redacted, again assumed to be Madeline's name, redacted's vagina while she appears to be sleeping. Another one, Vinnie, description, image file depicting Madeline, approximately redacted years old. Stephan is inserting his penis into Madeline's mouth while she appears to be sleeping. And the last one I pulled here, Vinnie, of course, there was hundreds, not thousands again, of descriptions. Image file depicting Madeline, approximately redacted years old. Stephan is inserting his penis into Madeline's anus. Madeline's identity is confirmed by a small birthmark that is right above her anus. This same mark is seen in several other photographs of Madeline. So again, Vinnie, just incredibly just grotesque and egregious and arguably infuriating to some.
Right, well, and I think it's important. Thanks for doing that, Cody. I know it's not easy, but to understand what this really is. So, Gisela, can you give us a little more context now about where these images are? And it seems like it's videos as well as still images. Where and when all of this, these pictures are being taken, these videos are being taken, and this sex abuse is happening?
So there were about 1,700 images and or videos, and those were all taken over the span of a number of years just from what they found from his Google Cloud account that backed up to his phone after he'd factory reset it. So from approximately when Madeline Soto was 8 years old. And I mean, in some of those, his face is in them, he's performing all these horrific acts on a child with his face showing sometimes, with his clothing identifiable, her bedding, her underwear, things like that. So, I mean, it would usually be when she appeared to be sleeping, but sometimes she was awake because we know she drew in her diary as well, you know, some of the acts that were being done to her. So she was aware of some of it.
And how about her mom, Jenn Soto? You know, every time this story and these crimes are discussed, people are wondering about Jenn Soto. Do we know if she's in the home at the time this is happening, is there any evidence of that? How surprised was she when these images were uncovered by investigators?
I mean, she didn't seem all that surprised. It was actually terrible to see just her lack of concern and reaction. In fact, she had sympathy for Stephan Stearns and wanted to get him a lawyer while her child was missing, and they showed her this horrific evidence. She was in the home for most of the time during these years because she wasn't working, she was on disability, and she said she was home most of the time. So yes, we all do wonder, how could this all have taken place when she was at home, and how did she not know?
All right, Gisela Kay is going to stick around for later on in the program. Cody Thomas, thank you so much. Coming up next, did he consent to the search of the phone?
Did they see or take an item from you?
Yes, they did.
Is Karen Reed a killer girlfriend
She's guilty.
or the scapegoat in an elaborate cover-up?
Karen Reed was framed.
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
Defendant stated repeatedly, I hit him, I hit him.
She may end up taking the stand. Her first trial ended with a hung jury. They haven't proven anything.
Will a jury finally agree on a verdict?
We know who did it.
The Karen Reed murder retrial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8/7 Central on Court TV.
Pernam.
Do you have a Google account?
Yeah.
Do you save pictures to your Google account?
Sometimes.
Or is it automatically? I know sometimes phones sync to a cloud and...
Yeah, I think it backs up to Google.
And then sometimes when you reset your phone and your phone updates and puts these apps back on your phone, sometimes they will put the images back on your phone.
I'm not sure.
Oh, he definitely wasn't sure. He didn't understand that part of it. He did a factory reset of his phone, but all those images that were on the cloud came raining back down, and investigators were able to get their hands on it. But right now, Stephan Stearns wants the judge to suppress the evidence that was accessed from his phone and from his Google account. He's saying it wasn't done lawfully. So he's in court testifying on this issue. Here he is talking about what he consented to and what he did not consent to. Take a listen.
During your contact with law enforcement, did they seize or take an item from you?
Yes, they did.
What item was that?
That would be my cell phone.
Do you know what type of cell phone it was?
It was a Samsung Galaxy. I believe it was a 24.
And what was your understanding as to what they were going to do with it?
They were just going to check my Google Maps and check to see if I was logged into Google, and that was it. That was all I agreed to.
Did you have the opportunity to see what law enforcement was doing on your cell phone?
No, as a constable was still talking to me, Tabler walked away and began searching other things that I did not consent to.
Isn't it true that she actually handed your phone back to you?
Briefly, when she told me to input my PIN because it had locked itself.
So he's saying he consented for them to look at Google Maps, but not to access all those images. And this brings us to the next question in our investigation. Did he consent to the search of the phone that resulted in all those images being found by investigators that are now the subject of this first trial where he's facing life in prison? Joining us, forensic death investigator and host of the very popular Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan, and criminal defense attorney with experience in homicide, sexual assault, and child abuse, and a former sex crimes prosecutor, the man who taught me when I started as a prosecutor, even though I think I'm older than he is. Ken Ralph is with us. Great to see you, Ken. Great to see you, Joseph. Joseph, put us in the mind of the investigators here, because when they're accessing his phone, there is a missing girl. They're looking for 13-year-old Madeline Soto. She's gone. Yeah. They don't know where she is, and they don't know where he was. They're trying to access his story. What are their concerns at that moment, and why not get a warrant?
Well, because they don't know where she is, and time is of the essence anytime that you're working a case like this where you have a missing child. And of course, he's going to be the primary, he's going to be literally the font or the wellspring of all knowledge relative to her whereabouts, because they know that he's probably the last person that had contact with her. So they're going to that. They want to try to determine where he has been, what he has been doing. Now, as far as the consent goes, he's consented to allow them to take a look at his phone. You know, I don't know what passed between them or what they necessarily said to him to have him hand that phone over, but they saw something on there. And just because they find it doesn't necessarily mean that that they were doing anything nefarious necessarily. Their goal right now is just to find where Maddie is.
Now, Ken, I want to play for you some of the testimony from the detective talking about this back and forth and how it went that day when they got their hands on his phone. Let's take a listen.
At some point during your interaction with him, do you request for Mr. Stearns to take out his cell phone?
Yes.
Or to look at his cell phone?
Yes.
Can you remember where the cell phone was, where the defendant's cell phone was when you asked this question?
I do not. It was in his possession, but I don't recall where he grabbed the phone from.
Did the defendant consent to allowing you to look at his phone?
Yes.
Who entered the passcode into the phone?
Stephan.
Does the defendant ever communicate to you any limitations on what it is that you're doing?
He does not.
Does the defendant ever attempt either verbally, physically, or in any type of way to cease the search of the phone?
He does not.
And at that point, it was just to check whether he was logged into his Google, right?
Correct.
Not going through the entirety of his phone.
Correct.
You never asked him, can I go through the entirety of your phone?
He was standing next to me while I was on his phone.
Okay, so it's your basis that he has to say no, you can just keep digging until he says stop?
Correct.
All right, Ken Ralph, should prosecutors be concerned at all here about the way the phone was searched and the images were accessed?
Well, they should always be concerned, Vinny, because obviously there's very key and critical information there that's in that phone to their prosecution. So yes, they have to be concerned. The suppression motion is a big weapon for the defense in this case to use. The takeaway from that testimony is that Mr. Stearns gave the passcode to be able to open the phone to the detective. So that suggests consent. Now, of course, that has to be seen in the context of the totality of the circumstances. You know, what was said to him before that, what led him to do that, and then what transpired after. But yes, this is obviously critical evidence, and it's a very important motion for both sides in this this criminal case.
Yeah, and Joseph, if you put yourself in the mind of Stephan Stearns, I know it's an ugly place to be, but I feel like he felt like he was safe because he accidentally did a factory reset on his phone. I don't think he had any idea that stuff would be able to be accessed because of the cloud.
Yeah, I'm sure that he didn't. You know, he's moving forward and thinking that all of this nefarious activity that he has engaged in, allegedly, and documented photographically, and I guess from a videography standpoint as well, if we are to, you know, believe everything we've heard. He thinks that this factory reset is going to wipe all of this stuff out. But, you know, here's the thing. I can't imagine that this police officer standing there for that moment in time would have borne witness to all of those items at that particular time. And give you kind of a little reference. If a police officer walks into a residence, okay, and they're doing like a check of that residence, say a welfare check, and they discover a body that has like multiple defects in it, and got blood that's issued forth from the body, they suspect a homicide, they're generally going to back out of that residence and then acquire a warrant at that point in time, because you can't, the Constitution protects us citizens from them going around and nosing through our environment, particularly hidden places. So if she had seen something at that point in time that was, you know, indicative of his documenting of all of these misdeeds, then it's at that point in time that she would have either retained the phone, set it aside, and waited to get a warrant and get somebody whose hands could be on it that would know how to download those images at that point in time.
Ken, let me ask you, as a sex crimes prosecutor, are you surprised that all of this material was so easily accessible and it wasn't encrypted? He didn't keep it in some separate place where only he could get it, that it was sort of floating in the cloud and back and forth to his phone? And this is over the course of years, these pictures.
Unfortunately, Vinnie, I think the dynamic of this type of offender is they do build these collections and they do want their collections to be accessible to them. At least I believe that's the mindset that I've heard in these situations. So I suppose it's not surprising, no, and it makes law enforcement's job somewhat easier if, like you say, it's not encrypted, it's not hidden away in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, he was keeping this stuff on his phone over the course of years. Joseph Scott Morgan, we have like 10 seconds left here. What are your thoughts about Stephan Stearns? Do you think if he loses this, in his mind, he may fold, or do you think he wants this public trial if all this evidence comes in?
No, I think he might fold. I think this is a tidal wave of data and evidence here. It's very damning.
All right, Joseph Scott Morgan, great to see you. Ken Ralph's going to stick around. Up next, does Jenn Soto need to testify to prove the case?
Patient.
I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the sexual abuse and murder of 13-year-old Madeline Soto, who had just celebrated her 13th birthday with friends and family when she was strangled to death. Here's the story. Stephan Stearns was arrested in March of 2024 in connection with the murder of 13-year-old Madeline Soto in Kissimmee, Florida. After Madeline was reported missing, authorities launched an extensive search, ultimately discovering her body in a remote area of Osceola County. The medical examiner determined she had been strangled. Investigators quickly focused on Stearns, the boyfriend of Madeline's mother, Jenn Soto. Evidence revealed that Stearns had been allegedly sexually abusing Madeline for years. He was charged with first-degree murder, capital sexual battery, and possession of child sexual abuse material. Stearns is currently in custody, awaiting trial, and could face the death penalty if convicted of Madeline's murder. Meanwhile, Madeline's mother has not been charged and may testify against Stearns. There are many disturbing facts connected to this case, and we've been talking a lot about them. But when you talk about the story and what happened to this 13-year-old and how this accused pedophile and murderer had access to this little girl over the course of years, when you talk about how he had access, you get to what is the one fact in all of this, and it's a fact, it's an admission, it's absolutely a fact in the case. I think that really gets people angry, it gets people upset, and we have a difficult time understanding it. As a matter of fact, I believe that Stephan Stearns' own parents had difficulty understanding this fact. I want to play for you Jenn Soto being questioned by police about the sleeping arrangements in their home, which has many bedrooms. I think it's 4 bedrooms. There are some people who rent rooms in this townhouse, but there are a whole bunch of rooms and beds all over. But take a listen to Jenn Soto describing the sleeping arrangements for her, Stephan Stearns, and her young daughter.
You guys are sleeping in the same bed together. You guys are all cohabitating. She's not sleeping in her room. But you felt the need to establish a rule that they couldn't sleep in the same room. But when you established that rule, for 3 years, she's already been dating him, essentially.
I had
whether that's legal or not.
I had no idea. If I knew anything, I promise you, I would tell you. Like, I am willing to take a lie detector test, whatever the you want, but I don't know anything. He's never mentioned anything. I've never seen any signs. I tried watching her like a hawk. I thought I was doing a good job, but I wasn't. I was oblivious to everything. 4 years?
Minimum. That's just how that far back the cloud goes. And I find it hard to believe for me that you were so worried about how many pills she took at night, but not where she slept or what relationship she was. His interest in her.
I thought we were all safe. I thought because in that he hadn't shown me anything so far. Like, everything seems fine. Like, he seems like he treated her like
he treats you.
That's a horrendous fact. Now, she hasn't been charged with anything, but she is allowing and at times instructing Stephan Stearns to go up to the bedroom alone with her daughter. But now we've got a case. We've got a case involving all these images found on Stephan Stearns' phone. She lives in the house. She's the mother of the victim, the ex-girlfriend of the defendant, which brings us to the next question in our investigation. Does Jenn Soto need to testify to prove the case? Do prosecutors have to call the mother to the witness stand to prove the case involving all the images that were found on that phone? Here with us, creator and host of the Grizzly True Crime YouTube channel, has been following this case, breaking news on it. Gisela Kay is with us, and criminal defense attorney with experience in homicide, sexual assault, and child abuse. He's a former sex crimes prosecutor. Ken Ralph is with us as well. Gisela, first of all, do you believe that she will testify for the state, for prosecutors against Stephan Stearns?
That's the general consensus, but honestly, I think it's a little risky if the state will put her on the stand, because imagine the cross-examination. I mean, she could be an unreliable witness. She could really make the jury think, what's going on here? Because she's so sympathetic to Stephan Stearns. I don't know if it will be good for their case or not, but I think she's going to testify either way.
Okay, Ken, you know what it takes to prove a case like this. I want to put this up on the screen. I'm going to read parts of it. There's parts I'm not comfortable reading, but it has to do with the images and some of the identifying marks that are found in the images. From his arrest warrant, based on photos from his phone that investigators saw, the male sexual unit observed penetrating the victim had distinct marking on it, which consisted of bright pinkish colored skin below the top of this sexual unit. I'm using different words, I don't know, until approximately a quarter of the length down, the rest of it. You can read it, folks. I'll give you a moment to read it to yourselves. So, Ken, if this is a case where the assault is being done, you don't see the face of the person committing the assault, but you see a part of their body, do you need someone like a girlfriend to identify that part of the body, to recognize it?
Vinnie, generally speaking, this is really a need versus want question, and the prosecutor is probably going to start with the want part of that question. Do we want Madeline Soto to testify?
Jenn Soto. Madeline's the victim.
I'm sorry. Jenn Soto, my error. Do I want Ms. Soto to testify? And I think the answer to that question is no, for the reasons you pointed out earlier. She's sympathetic to the defendant, and she has really a lack of concern at some points for Madeline, her daughter, who is the victim in this case. So I think the prosecutor is going to take a look at the evidence, see, hey, can I prove these things through other means? Do I have other witnesses who could testify?
Well, I'll tell you, he never, I don't believe we ever see his face. Let me ask Gisela. Gisela, is it clear or unclear? Because, you know, we're obviously not going to see the images, but from the descriptions, is his face shown in any of these videos, or is he just videoing, you know, himself below the saggy midsection that we're looking at right now?
Actually, sometimes you see his face.
You
So
do?
I think that is damning evidence. You do. You see his face and you hear his voice.
All right, so Ken, does that negate the need for her for an identification? Do you need to identify the victim in any way? Like you see her face, you'll see body parts that were described earlier in the program, but do you need the mother of the victim? Can you get a different relative to do it? How would you do that part of the case to ID the victim and the age of the victim in all of these videos?
Absolutely, Vinny. There's going to be a whole, you rattled off a whole number of issues right there. The prosecutor's going to go down that checklist and say, hey, do I have another witness who can testify to that? Is there a hearsay exception that gets something in? Is there physical evidence that supports this element? And to try to check off all those boxes. And if they can check off all those boxes that they need to prove without having Jenn Soto to testify to those facts, I think they will not have her testify. There's too much baggage. As pointed out earlier, too many issues for cross-examination, questions about why wasn't she charged, questions about why she let this go on in the first place. And it seems like it would drag the case down in a way that's not necessary at all.
And Gisela, what Ken is just describing is every chat in every live stream probably that you've done about this case, right? Inevitably, the chat goes to Jenn Soto. How could she do this? Why couldn't she do this? And I look at the folks in the chats on the live streams like jurors, right? This is where they naturally go.
Yes, we're an international mock jury online. At least that's how I see it. And everybody's wondering, what is she going to say if she testifies for the state? Can you imagine? I think she's actually going to be a good defense witness. If they call her up, that'll be interesting. I'm surprised Stephan Stearns hasn't thrown her under the bus yet.
How about that, Ken? How about that? The defense calling her. Is there a way to somehow make her the true villain in all of this to try to mitigate the case in some strange way?
Your choice of the word villain is an excellent one, Vinny, because every case needs a villain. And right now, the prosecution has the finger to point at the villain, and that's Stephan Stearns. Now, if it gets to the point where he's putting on a defense case, it's going to be a point of desperation at that point. And he may very well have to put her on, Ms. Soto, that is, and start attacking her. And suggesting that she was so permissive about everything that was going on and overlooked so many things that perhaps there's some alternative theory of who did this. And remember, the defense doesn't have to prove any of these facts; they just have to create reasonable doubt.
And Gisela, in all of the images, there's never been a reference that there's a third person in the room. It's always just Stearns and Madeline.
I've never seen a reference to another person. So we all wonder that as well. They did check Jenn Soto's phone, they checked Maddie's phone and Stephan Stearns' phone. So it seems like it's just him facing those charges.
And Ken, if she has not been charged to this point, do you think there's any chance that she gets charged down the road for anything, whether it's related to the images or to the murder, if she to this day has not been charged or named as a suspect?
Well, I think it would seem highly unlikely that she would get charged after all this time. If there was any sort of agreement that she made, maybe that she was going to testify in lieu of getting charged, that would have to come out before the trial. But there's been no suggestion that happened. It just seems like the choice has been made not to charge her.
Yeah, and it seems every time we're asking folks down there, what are investigators saying about it, and whether it's on the record, off the record, it's always there is no evidence to suggest that she committed any crimes, or we don't have evidence that she committed a crime, so that's kind of where it stands. Big thank you, Gisela K, Grizzly True Crime. Check it out on YouTube in about 18 minutes after the show ends. And Ken Ralph, always great to see you. Thank you so much. Still to come. Will Stephan Stearns' new appearance help him with the jury?
He's not a very clean guy.
No, you're dodging the question, David. You're dodging the question.
I'm not here to be interviewed. You've agreed to be interviewed. You told the police you shot him twice in the head. It sounds like You lost control of yourself.
Not at all. No, not at all. I could have killed everybody in that building, and I didn't.
You think you should get some kind of credit for not killing people?
Interview with a Killer. New episode, Sunday at 8 on Court TV.
He's not a very clean guy. He's kind of a little hoarder, like collector. So just my house was always a mess and never the way that I wanted it to look. Or the clutter just gave me anxiety. So I asked him to go upstairs and he did.
As Jenn Soto describing her so-called on-again, off-again boyfriend over the course of years, the man that she trusted to sleep with her daughter, and calls him, not a clean guy, he's a bit of a hoarder. And when we met him, in covering the story and saw him on TV doing interviews and then the police interviews, every time we look at him, he just doesn't, he looks kind of, I don't know, I don't want to be mean, but he is an accused child molester. But you look at these images and it's almost like he's a little disheveled, doesn't take care of himself, and is at a central casting for what a child predator may look like of that age. And there's nothing redeeming about him, right? The look, the hat, the beard, the mannerisms, everything about him just kind of oozed and eked, and no one had a good feeling about it, right? And again, I don't want to be mean, but I'm just giving you my reaction, the reaction that I've seen from others when looking at him. He looks different now, which brings us to the next question in our investigation, which is, will his new appearance help him with the jury? He's inside the courtroom and he looks way different, like way different. Joining me to help us with this question, jury consultant, human behavior expert, body language expert, also down there in the Orlando area where all this is happening, Susan Constantine. Susan, great to see you. First of all, a general question. How important and how much does it impact the jury, just the appearance of a defendant inside a courtroom, even if they never testify?
Well, first impressions matter, right? So the minute it's optics that they look at him, they're going to assess based on what they hear in the opening statements. Does he look guilty? Does he look the part? Based on what we've seen before, that kind of villain or the vampire look that he had, that's
a good description, vampire. He's sort of a vampire type of guy. I want to put up on the screen so everyone can see his new, renewed look. Let's take a look, because he looks, to me, way different. And I know it's just probably a haircut. He may also be bulking up based upon some of the food he's eating, but the hair is very short, the beard is more trimmed. His face just looks different. What are your thoughts about this new appearance?
Well, if I were, I'm going to take aside my own personal feelings about this case, but if I were the jury and if I were the jury consultant in this, I would have said, yes, cut his hair off. He has this very distinct yin and yang look, the black and the white, where the top area is black, the bottom is white. He just has a really odd coloring. So I think by taking the hair all the way down is a better appearance. But again, first impressions matter. I'd like to be able to see what the jury's responses will be when they see him in the courtroom. And I'll tell you what, Vinnie, I'm going to be there. So hopefully I'll be able to see him in person and see what he looks like right there.
Fantastic. I want to do some before and after shots here just to demonstrate the contrast and from your perspective, what you see from the body language. I know it's a still photo, but the difference between before on the left and after on the right.
Sure, on the left with his head down, right? He's got the camouflage with the slight with a hat and so forth. But right here, he's in deep processing. I believe what he was doing was eye blocking here. He was almost appearing as if he was sleeping, but that really disheveled look and the hoodie and all of that just screams the villain, right? He looks like he would smell like a like a predator, right? When they look at the right-hand side, we see concern. His face is more, is more apparent. So you can see his features. And he has I guess, a nicer appearance there. It's kind of hard for me to say nicer because I don't think
I know
looks
it's
nice at all.
difficult because I know who we're talking about and the allegations, etc. I've got another split screen for you. On the left will be, I believe, his mug shot, and then on the right, again, another shot from his most recent court appearance. And again, I see it's almost, the face is almost a different shape, but it may just be because of the shaving, etc.
Right, because he doesn't have any hair in his face, and I'm sure with him being in jail, and remember he complained about the food and so forth, he's probably not eating as well. And, his face is a little bit thinner, it's more gaunt. But, I mean, when you're looking at his face on the right-hand side, his eyebrows kind of pulled up, you see the wrinkles across his forehead, his chin is kind of pulled in. So he's obviously heard something with his eyes wide open that kind of startled him or kind of was a little off-putting. Compared to the right one, he's very flat. His affect is flat, his eyes are more fixated. He has no expression whatsoever, so he looks very detached. So I think by looking at the two people, you wouldn't really know they were the same person, so that might be better for him. But although, keep in mind, there's going to be lots of photos and videos of him, the way he looks before than after, and they're going to draw the correlation. All right, I want to play just a piece of him speaking in court. Susan, and get your analysis of what you're seeing from him. We have about a minute and a half left. Let's take a look.
Can you please state and spell your last name for the record?
Stephan Stearns, S-T-E-R-N-S.
And what was your understanding as to what they were going to do with it?
They were just going to check my Google Maps and check to see if I was logged into Google, and that was it. That was all I agreed to.
I know we're not seeing his face, but what are you seeing from the backside, and what are you hearing there?
Right. So, I mean, he's very articulate. When he is stating his name, he's saying it slowly. He's, punctuating every single letter. But then we kind of see this little bobble. You see that right beforehand. That's just cognitive load. That's part of anxiety and nervousness. And, of course, he would be in this particular situation. I've got
Time to show you one more quick one. Let's take a look. This is his police interview before he's arrested.
What happened to your phone?
No idea what happened to my phone. I was pushing off doing this update for a while and ended up trying to do it. I don't know what the hell, my head being in the state it was, I wasn't paying attention. I ended up somehow doing some sort of option that updated the OS, but it ended up like wiping my phone at the same time.
We have about 20 seconds here. Big contrast, right?
Yes. Well, first of all, liar, liar, pants on fire. He's very guarded, looking down, not making any eye contact. His voice is lowered. He also sounds very victim-like. So overall, when we're looking at his body language, he's very suspect, especially if I were in the investigation room. I'd be watching them be pulling up all of those indicators. Those are high suspect behavioral indicators. So I certainly would have my eyes on him.
And they did. Susan Constantine, thank you so much. We will speak again. You know, it seems to me the only defense Stephan Stearns has for the sex abuse and recorded images of Madeline Soto is to keep the evidence out. Because if the evidence is in, he has nowhere to go. A child cannot consent. And if the images appear as described by law enforcement, there is absolutely no innocent explanation. So I'm wondering, will he really go through with a trial if this evidence is admissible? I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.